It's Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneur Magazine, and I am here with Andrei Polgar. Andrei, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. You know, being a master of economics, you have the 1 minute economics, and I wanted to really get to the background on why you decided to help so many people understand economics, and through your books, through your YouTube channel, why did you decide to do this?
The problem, how I see it with many of my peers, is that the average economist tends to focus so much on trying to seem smart that they lose sight of the big picture. And the big picture is the fact that the manner in which economics is being taught, whether we're talking about in universities or, just the average person, personal finance, that kind of stuff, it was awful. And I said to myself, okay, let me just try a bit of an experiment. Let me record a video here and there, maybe once every couple of months, and see what happens. So I did. I started out with just the basics, which are inflation, your deflation, your supply and demand. And much to my surprise, I found myself no longer talking to myself. Or in other words, the concept worked. And people told me, hey, look, I finally understood these things. Why don't you make a video about this? Why don't you make a video about that? So I moved on to more complicated stuff, like, for example, how our banking system works, fractional reserve banking, or the famous or infamous derivatives, which to a large degree caused the Great Recession. And I kind of ended up realizing that I'm pretty good at making complicated stuff easy to understand. So when it comes to this dimension of my career, this is what I'm focusing on. With my book, with my YouTube channel, it doesn't really mean a lot to me to sound smart. I don't particularly care. What I do care is that I want my stuff to work. And I keep on doing what I'm doing because time and time again, I keep having this awesome feedback loop, and people are telling me that it works pretty much.
Yeah, and I agree. It really does. And I know you wrote the book Age of Anomaly. And can you help share, because you are an expert at what I call transcoding. You take highly complex economic issues and make it easy enough for the big dummy over here to understand. What was your chief concern or main concerns about the economy in your book?
Now, right off the bat, people need to kind of know that I'm not the type of person who's easily spooked by something like a 60% stock market crash. Like, I consider myself a hands-on economist. Like, for example, when I talk about cryptocurrencies, I don't just read about them and then tell you guys what I've read. I actually invest in them. I actually trade them myself. The same for stocks, the same for, all of the assets I have exposure to. So as someone who even trades cryptocurrencies on leverage every now and then, I'm not exactly easy to impress when it comes to volatility. So the number one thing people need to understand is that I'm not afraid of a market crash. And if another year goes by without us having a recession, it would be a record. So yeah, from a cyclical perspective, we are kind of due or overdue a recession, a financial crisis, whatever you want to call it. But it's not what I'm afraid of. And historically speaking, all bets are off when confidence is lost. Now, as someone who lives in Eastern Europe and especially who grew up in the middle of nowhere over here, I think I'm in a better position than maybe someone from a developed country to say that systems that we take for granted, with the many institutions which safeguard against one another and all that, these systems hang by a thinner thread than we realize. And that thread is confidence to a large degree. I would assert that when someone like myself starts being worried, then maybe it's time to pay attention. And this is all I ask of people.
So
think about, yeah, go ahead, please.
So how do you become better at spotting those financial calamities?
There are two dimensions I address in my book. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and show it real quick. It's a huge book. Like, it's 400 plus pages. If you want to hard enough, you can work out your biceps with it. So it's not exactly something that's meant to be read in a weekend, but it's conversational. It's easy to understand. And I tell people something simple. There are two dimensions. One, I will guide them through history and show them how human beings behaved in similar situations in the past. From the first recorded asset bubble, which was the tulip mania, which peaked in 1636 to 1637, to modern day ones like the dot-com bubble, the Great Recessions, or even lesser known ones like the short domain mania of 2015 to 2016, and I think I'm the only economist out there who studied it. We look at all of these things not because we believe history is going to repeat itself, but rather because history tends to rhyme. And by taking a look at history, our goal should be catching a glimpse of human nature, understanding what makes us tick, what makes us become overly euphoric when things are good, what makes us go from that to full-fledged panic moods when they get sour. And this understanding of human nature, my first dimension, is going to enable you to maximize the likelihood of spotting the next financial crisis as early on as possible. The second dimension is the exact opposite, because I think, due to the nature of my occupation, of course, I think about these things all day. The second dimension, however, is all about having the humility it takes, in my case, to say, look, even if I do think about these things all day, I might be taken by surprise by what happens next as well. So it makes sense, I feel, to dedicate just as much time and energy to becoming more financially resilient in general, so as to better withstand anything life throws at you, from the economy to, stuff like personal emergencies, medical stuff, anything that life throws at you. Basically, it's in your best interest, essentially, to pay attention to this dimension as well. It's not rocket science. I'm not about to tell people to go hide under a rock and stock up on guns, gold, and ammunition and just, kind of focus on that dimension. No. I tell people, look, a few simple things, as long as you do them now, when nobody around you is panicking, they make the world of a difference. If you wait until everyone else is scared, frightened, whatever, if you wait until then you can have the smartest economist in the world by your side, and it's going to do you little good.
That's awesome. We both have that in common, right? I have a TV show for the 1 minute pitch, elevator pitch, what can you do in 60 seconds? And you're the 1 minute economics guy with a great book, Age of Anomaly, and that's some incredible wisdom in such a short interview. Andrei, I look forward to meeting you over here, and I definitely will be in touch as this economy moves here in the United States. I want to know some more of your great advice to make more money so I can help more people and have more fun. Thank you so much for joining me on Entrepreneur, the Playbook.